Welcome, dear friends, to the Crimson Academy's course on the tablets of Baha'u'lláh revealed after the Kitáb-i-Aqdas. In this section, dear friends, we will be exploring Ishráqát, splendors. The tablet of Ishráqát was addressed to Jalil Khoury, a coppersmith who lived in the province of Azerbaijan and was a well-known believer. It was revealed in answer to his questions, particularly those on the subject of supreme infallibility. He had the inestimable privilege of attaining the presence of Baha'u'lláh and became the recipient of many bounties from him. But Jalil deprived himself of all the blessings which were showered on him and perished spiritually. After the ascension of Baha'u'lláh, he violated the covenant and joined hands with Muhammad Ali, the archbreaker of the covenant of Baha'u'lláh. He was influenced by Jamala Burujrdi, who was foremost among the covenant breakers in Persia and had the ambition of becoming the undisputed leader of the community in that country. About 4 years after the ascension of Baha'u'lláh, Jamal went to Azerbaijan, appointed Jalil as his agent in the area, and urged him to meet the believers secretly and sow the seeds of covenant breaking among them. Jalil was further encouraged when Muhammad Ali dispatched to Azerbaijan a series of letters against the center of the covenant. In the meantime, the master sent Ibn Abhar, one of the hands of the cause, to the area to assist the believers to remain steadfast in the covenant. Jalil failed to make appreciable headway in his subversive activities. The believers in Azerbaijan stood firm, rallied around Abdul-Baha, and defended the cause of God heroically from the onslaught of the unfaithful. In AH 1315, in the years 1897 through 1898, Abdul-Baha addressed a lengthy tablet known as the Lohe Hizara Beiti, the tablet of 1,000 verses, to Jalil. In this celebrated tablet, he showers upon him much loving kindness, exhorts him to faithfulness in the cause, explains in detail the authenticity of the covenant of Baha'u'lláh, sets forth convincing proofs in support of his argument, and provides one of the most illuminating insights into the subject of the covenant as a whole. Writing at a time of great agitation and danger in the Holy Land, and wishing not to add fuel to the fire already lit by the covenant breakers, which threatened to engulf the community of the believers, the master sent a trusted servant of the cause, Mirza Mahmud Zarqani, to Tabriz, the capital of Azerbaijan, with instructions to read aloud the full contents of the tablet to Jalil, but not to hand him a copy. Jalil heard this highly enlightening tablet in full, but alas, the lust of leadership had blinded his eyes and stopped his ears. He later witnessed the futility of his efforts and died in ignominy. The tablet of Ishráqát revealed by Baha'u'lláh in his honor contains some of the choicest fruits of his revelation. Towards the end of the tablet, Baha'u'lláh outlines some of his basic teachings and principles under 9 headings, each one designated as an ishraq, splendor. The first few paragraphs of this tablet are revealed in a language of mystery, the unraveling of which depends partly upon a deep understanding of Islamic theology and its terminology, and of the Arabic language, and partly upon the individual's insight into the inner significances of the words of Baha'u'lláh. For these reasons, and in order not to enter into unauthorized interpretation of the holy writings, we refrain from discussing these. However, dear friends, there is a certain tablet by His Holiness Abdul Baha in Persian which may help the reader to appreciate the significance of some of Baha'u'llah's statements. In the tablet of Ishráqát, His Holiness Baha'u'lláh refers to the Bab as the point, the herald of his name, and the harbinger of his great revelation. He affirms that God ordained the Bab to be an ocean of light for the sincere, and a flame of fire to the froward among the people. The advent of every manifestation of God brings about the same situation. His coming causes humanity to be divided into believers and unbelievers. This is similar to the holding of a school examination. When the students enter into the examination hall, they all have equal status. But as they walk out, the division has already taken place, as some have passed the examination while others have failed. Similarly, the appearance of the manifestation of God is the harbinger of universal testing. Before his appearance, all humanity is placed on the same plane. But as soon as the manifestation of God reveals himself, some are elevated to a higher plane by embracing his cause, while others are left behind. When the Bab appeared, he announced the glad tidings of the coming of him whom God shall make manifest, Baha'u'lláh. He prepared his followers for his coming and made of them a new creation, worthy to recognize the supreme manifestation of God. But when Baha'u'lláh revealed himself to humanity in general, and to the followers of the Bab in particular, the scene was set for yet another universal test of faith. With the unveiling of Baha'u'llah's station, the Babi community became divided. Most of the followers of the Bab embraced his cause, while a small number deprived themselves of his faith. The revelation of Baha'u'lláh became thereby the cause of felicity and bounty for some, but brought about remoteness and misery for others. Baha'u'lláh confirms this process in the tablet of Ishráqát, when he states, "This is the day that God hath ordained to be a blessing unto the righteous, a retribution for the wicked, a bounty for the faithful, and a fury of his wrath for the faithless and the froward. Verily he hath been made manifest, invested by God with invincible sovereignty. He hath revealed that wherewith naught on the earth or in the heavens can compare." In this tablet, Baha'u'lláh rebukes the people of the Bayan, meaning the followers of the Bab, for their waywardness and blindness, which had prevented them from recognizing his own mighty revelation. He admonishes them to cast away their idle fancies and turn with pure hearts to him. These are some of his words addressed to them. "Fear ye God, and abandon vain imaginings to the begetters thereof, and leave superstitions to the devisers thereof, and misgivings to the breeders thereof. Advance ye, then, with radiant faces and stainless hearts towards the horizon above, which the day star of certitude shineth resplendent at the bidding of God, the Lord of revelations. In the course of these admonitions, Baha'u'lláh mentions the sufferings which had been inflicted on him, twice in the land of Tehran, the land of Ta, and once in the land of Mim, Mazandaran. The first time that Baha'u'lláh was made captive at the hands of his enemies was in Tehran. This was almost 4 years after the declaration of the Bab. His second imprisonment, when the bastinado was inflicted on him, took place a few months later in Amul, in the province of Mazandaran. The third imprisonment, the most afflictive of all, was in August 1852 in the Siachal of Tehran. Dalil, for whom the tablet of Ishráqát was revealed, had asked Baha'u'lláh to explain for him the meaning of the most great infallibility. In response, Baha'u'lláh reveals these thought-provoking words. Thou hast asked this wronged one to remove for thee its veils and coverings, to elucidate its mystery and character, its state and position, its excellence, sublimity and exaltation. By the life of God, were we to unveil the pearls of testimony which lie hid within the shells of the ocean of knowledge and assurance, or to let the beauties of divine mystery, which are hidden within the chambers of utterance, in the paradise of true understanding, step out of their habitation, then from every direction violent commotion would arise among the leaders of religion, and thou wouldst witness the people of God held fast in the teeth of such wolves as have denied God both in the beginning and in the end. Verily, the birds abiding within the domains of my kingdom, and the doves dwelling in the rose garden of my wisdom, utter such melodies and warblings as are inscrutable to all but God, the Lord of the kingdoms of earth and heaven. And were these melodies to be revealed even to an extent smaller than a needle's eye, the people of tyranny would utter such calumnies as none among former generations hath ever uttered, and would commit such deeds as no one in past ages and centuries hath ever committed. In this tablet, Baha'u'lláh describes some aspects of infallibility and makes a distinction between conferred and the most great infallibility. These are the words of Baha'u'lláh in the tablet of Ishráqát. Know thou that the term infallibility hath numerous meanings and diverse stations. In one sense, it is applicable to the one whom God hath made immune from error. Similarly, it is applied to every soul whom God hath guarded against sin, transgression, rebellion, impiety, disbelief, and the like. However, the most great infallibility is confined to the one whose station is immeasurably exalted beyond ordinances or prohibitions, and is sanctified from errors and omissions. Indeed, he is a light which is not followed by darkness, and a truth not overtaken by error. Were he to pronounce water to be wine, or heaven to be earth, or light to be fire. He speaketh the truth, and no doubt would there be about it. And unto no one is given the right to question his authority, or to say why or wherefore. In many of his tablets, Baha'u'lláh has made similar statements to those in this tablet. He states that if he were to explain the inner meaning of his words, or reveal the exalted station of his own person, or the greatness of his revelation, then those devoid of true understanding would be so shocked and filled with such anger as to arise in vehement opposition to his cause and his loved ones. The religious leaders of Islam and some of the followers of the Bab, who were not endowed with true knowledge, used some of Baha'u'llah's utterances about the greatness of the cause in order to misrepresent him. Later, others, both in the East and the West, joined in and misrepresented his writings in order to oppose his cause. There are innumerable passages revealed by Baha'u'lláh in which he glorifies the exalted nature of his revelation. The immensity of his claims overwhelms the believers and antagonizes his enemies. It is increasingly evident that the generality of mankind is getting further away from the concept of spirituality and religious truth. Added to this is the fact that man's intellectual capacity to understand God and his manifestations is limited. There are also other barriers in his way, such as bias, prejudice of all kinds, vain imaginings, superstition, and many more. It is not surprising, therefore, that Baha'u'lláh, appearing in a society poor in spiritual perception, should find it necessary to withhold his pen from revealing the exalted nature of God's power and glory, with which he was invested. Indeed, it was man's unworthiness that prompted Baha'u'lláh to order his amanuensis to obliterate a considerable portion of his tablets in his own handwriting and cast them into the river during his banishment in Iraq. Mirza Abu Fazl, the great Baha'i scholar, has described an interesting incident which took place when he was residing in Cairo, an incident which sheds further light upon the subject. Mirza Abu Fazl emerged in circles of learning and erudition in Cairo as the foremost authority on religious history and teachings. A great many professors and students of the famous Al-Azhar University, as well as many divines and men of culture, crowded into his presence and sat at his feet to partake of his vast knowledge and insight into spiritual matters. This is the story as he himself recounts. When the Protestant Evangelical Society published the book Treatise on Islam, certain of the religious leaders, the Muslims of these parts, such as the erudite Sheikh Badruddin al-Qazi and others from the fields of Islamic jurisprudence and divinity, suggested to this servant that it would be appropriate, in view of the extent of knowledge of the holy books of ancient faiths which God, exalted be his glory, has vouchsafed unto him, that he should write an adequate and satisfactory reply to the aforementioned treatise, and expose its errors of fact and its historical calumnies, so that the weak ones amongst the people might not be misled by its inaccuracies and doubt might not be implanted in their minds. To this request I replied, "Please let me be excused, for there are difficulties in this path which are very hard to overcome. For many years, indeed centuries, the ears of the people of Islam have become accustomed to hearing tawdry speech, and their minds have been nourished on the superficialities of literalism. Now, if the veil be lifted off the true meaning of all the Quranic allusions, and thus all the objections of those who promote doubts among people are cleared away, such as the objections of the treaties, then these very same people who are Muslims in name will rise up in enmity and engage in vehement opposition. They would be content to see the objections and doubts raised by these people not removed from the Quran, but retained forever. They would rather see the standard of the people of Islam be trampled upon by the misguided than allow that through the emanations of the supreme pen of Baha'u'lláh, the maids of true meaning step forth out of their cloistered mansions of the divine verses, so that all the objections be answered, and indeed all the thick clouds of criticism and cavilling be dispelled and made to disappear." This argument put forward by Mirza Abu Fazl concerning Islam is valid for other religions too. For example, Christianity as practiced today is so far removed from the pure teaching of Christ that if its founder could return in person, he would never be able to reconcile his faith with all the man-made dogmas and rituals and so many divided churches. Baha'u'lláh and Abdul Baha have explained in their writings the reality of Christ, the truth of his message, and the true meaning of the words recorded in the Gospels. But to present the picture of Christianity as given by Baha'u'lláh in the Kitáb-i-Aqdas, or to approach some Christian subjects with the explanations given by Abdul Baha in some answer questions, would undoubtedly be met with strong disapproval by many Christians today. It is in fact much more difficult to explain the reality and truth of the Christian faith to a practicing Christian than to an unbiased person of a different background. It is indeed a grievous situation in which the followers of the religions have placed themselves. They have gone astray from the true path which the manifestations of God laid down for them, and consequently have been unable to recognize the truth of the revelation of Baha'u'lláh. It is concerning such people that the pen of the Most High reveals these despairing words in the Lohe Ishráqát. They have rejected the bounty of God and His proofs, and have repudiated the testimony of God and His signs. They have gone astray and have caused the people to go astray, yet perceive it not. They worship vain imaginings, but know it not. They have taken idle fancies for their lords, and have neglected God, yet understand not. They have abandoned the most great ocean, and are hastening towards the pool, but comprehend not. They follow their own idle fancies, while turning aside from God, the help in peril, the self-subsisting. Quoting from a tablet he had revealed previously, His Holiness Baha'u'lláh in the tablet of Ishráqát enumerates some of the Islamic prophecies Concerning the advent of the day of God, he employs a dialogue between the voice of truth and the voice of those who are bereft of true understanding and have denied his cause. There are many passages such as these in this tablet. Have the verses been sent down? Say yea by him who is the revealer of clear tokens, and they say, hath the catastrophe come to pass? Say yea by the Lord of Lords, is the resurrection come? Nay, more, he who is the self-subsisting hath appeared with the kingdom of his signs. Seest thou men laid low? Yea, by my Lord the Most High, the Most Glorious, have the tree stumps been uprooted? Yea, more, the mountains have been scattered in dust by him, the Lord of attributes. They say, where is paradise, and where is hell? Say, the one is reunion with me, the other thine own self. O thou who dost associate a partner with God and doubtest. They say, we see not the balance. Say, surely by my Lord, the God of mercy, none can see it except such as are endued with insight. They say, have the stars fallen? Say, yea, when he who is the self-subsisting dwelt in the land of mystery, take heed, ye who are endued with discernment. The falling of stars is a reference to the well-known prophecy of the Gospels concerning the return of Christ. And the land of mystery is a designation given by Bahá'u'lláh to the city of Adrianople. To appreciate the inner meanings of the prophecies quoted in this tablet referring to the coming of the Lord, one needs to study the Kitáb-i-Aqdas. This is the book in which the mysteries hidden in the heavenly books of the past religions are explained, and the significance of the prophecies contained in them revealed. Before the revelation of the Kitáb-i-Aqdas, the purpose and meaning of the words were concealed. With the coming of Baha'u'lláh, the time of the end as prophesied by Daniel was fulfilled. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. That is in the 12th chapter of Daniel, verses 8 through 9. The Kitáb-i-Aqdas unsealed the heavenly books of the past. Like the morning sun which brightens the eye, it illumined the hearts and imparted knowledge and understanding to the minds. Since then, many Baha'i scholars and teachers have written volumes on the interpretation of prophecies given by prophets of the past. Dear friends, under the 9 headings in the tablet of Ishráqát, known as Ishraq, splendor, Baha'u'lláh elucidates some of his teachings revealed specially for the rulers and ministers of the world. Teachings which are conducive to safety and protection, tranquility and peace. In the first Ishraq, he attaches the greatest importance to religion and describes it as a radiant light and an impregnable stronghold for the protection and welfare of the peoples of the world. He further prophesies that should the lamp of religion be obscured, chaos and confusion will ensue, and the lights of fairness and justice, of tranquility and peace cease to shine. This is already happening. A basic principle which applies to all religions is that there is a special relationship between a religion and the one which appears immediately after it. When a new manifestation of God appears, the spirit of faith is extinguished in the older religion, and at the same time is breathed into the new one. For instance, with the coming of Christ, the Jewish faith lost its vigor and vitality. These were instilled into the Christian faith. In the Quran it is stated, "Unto every nation there is a preordained term. Therefore, when their term is expired, they shall not have a respite for an hour, neither shall they be anticipated." This is in the 7th chapter of the Quran, verse 34. This means that every dispensation has a beginning and an end. The Baha'i dispensation began with the advent of the Bab, and all the major religions of the world lost a great deal of their spiritual power. The influence which they used to exert upon the hearts of men has been diminishing with every passing day. A contributing factor to this process has been the inability of religious leaders to adhere to the fundamental truths enshrined in each religion. Instead of understanding the reality of their religions and explaining the verities of their faiths to their followers, they have, in their ignorance, introduced so many dogmas and man-made interpretations that the light of true religion has become obscured. Consequently, many intelligent and honest people have discarded religion altogether and have swelled the ranks of agnostics and atheists. No one can blame a person endowed with common sense who rejects the claim of certain religious leaders that the body of Christ rose into space, or that one day the stars shall fall upon the earth. It is only since the coming of Baha'u'lláh and through his writings that the true meaning of all the abstruse passages in the holy books of past religions are so clearly explained that not a single statement remains which would appear contrary to reason and common sense. Indeed, it is one of the teachings of Baha'u'lláh that religious truth and scientific theories must be in harmony. But unfortunately, religious leaders, through their lack of understanding of true religious teachings, have widened the gap between religion and science. Today, the word religion is generally associated with ignorance, narrow-mindedness, and vain imaginings by a vast number of enlightened people. On the other hand, some have made a mockery of religion by creating sects which have proved to be nothing short of nests of corruption and profiteering. The sacredness of many religious acts, which were the mainstay of communities in olden times, have now been either completely eroded or corrupted, expediently transformed into political or commercial activities. It is for this reason that in introducing the Bahá'í Faith to the public, the followers of Baha'u'lláh will have to explain that the word religion as commonly understood by people is not applicable to the faith. It is a religion in its pure form and freed from corruption or adulteration. This is one of the distinguishing features of the faith of Baha'u'lláh. Today, when the light of religion is fading away, the prophecy of Baha'u'lláh in the first Ishraq has been fulfilled. Chaos and confusion have indeed ensued, and the lights of fairness and justice, of tranquility and peace have ceased to shine. This process will continue, and the world's horizons become darker until the warnings by Baha'u'lláh issued over 100 years ago come to pass. The world is in travail, and its agitation waxeth day by day. Its face is turned towards waywardness and unbelief. Such shall be its plight, that to disclose it now would not be meet and seemly. Its perversity will long continue, and when the appointed hour is come, there shall suddenly appear that which shall cause the limbs of mankind to quake. Then, and only then, will the divine standard be unfurled, and the nightingale of paradise warble its melody. These words of Baha'u'lláh foreshadow great sufferings in store for mankind. It is important to appreciate that these sufferings are not visited upon humanity as vengeance on the part of God. On the contrary, they are entirely man-made and the consequences of man's own actions. For God has created man in his own image, which means that he has bestowed upon man his attributes. He has also given him free will. He has created laws which govern the relationship of all things, cause and effect, action and reaction, reward and punishment. These laws are part of God's creation. Where people live and act in unity, the result is peace and harmony. Where they disregard this basic principle and groups of people rise up in enmity against each other, the result is destruction and suffering. It is not God's pleasure that millions die in war or perish through starvation. All these calamitous happenings are the product of man disobeying the laws and teachings of God, which have been revealed in this age. In many of his tablets, Baha'u'lláh has confirmed that a great part of human suffering is man-made. In a tablet, Baha'u'lláh states that the people of the world are encompassed by punishment for their deeds, and at each period this punishment manifests itself in a different form. And in another tablet he states that God has created all human beings to recognize his great revelation in this day, but their failure to embrace his cause is in itself a chastisement for their deeds. Reward and punishment are the mainstay of human society. This is the law of creation and cannot be altered. Baha'u'lláh declares that people are the bond slaves of vain imaginings and corrupt desires. God enables them to busy themselves with their idle fancies and worldly affections as a punishment in their lives. In another tablet, he states, had the world been of any worth in his sight, he surely would never have allowed his enemies to possess it, even to the extent of a grain of a mustard seed. He hath, however, caused you to be entangled with its affairs, in return for what your hands have wrought in his cause. This indeed is a chastisement which ye, of your own will, have inflicted upon yourselves, could ye but perceive it. Are ye rejoicing in the things which, according to the estimate of God, are contemptible and worthless, things wherewith he proveth the hearts of the doubtful? But the main purpose of the revelation of Baha'u'lláh is to instill into the hearts of men a measure of God's love and endow their souls with the spirit of faith. Only when this happens on a universal scale will man-made sufferings and calamities be replaced by the most great peace. When humanity attains to this exalted state, and the causes of disunity are thus eliminated, then trials and tribulations will be limited to those which God ordains for each individual. The sufferings which come from God are essential for the spiritual development of the soul, whereas man-made sufferings today are intolerable. God-sent ordeals and difficulties are never imposed upon a soul beyond its capacity. Numerous are the exhortations of Baha'u'lláh to his followers in the tablet of Ishráqát, urging them to follow the teachings of God. The following passage, which also appears in the Bisharat, demonstrates the exalted nature of these exhortations. O people of Baha, ye are the dawning places of the love of God, and the day springs of his loving kindness. Defile not your tongues with the cursing and reviling of any soul, and guard your eyes against that which is not seemly. Set forth that which ye possess. If it be favorably received, your end is attained. If not, to protest is vain. Leave that soul to himself and turn unto the Lord, the Protector, the self-subsisting. Be not the cause of grief, much less of discord and strife. The hope is cherished that ye may obtain true education in the shelter of the tree of his tender mercies, and act in accordance with that which God desireth. Ye are all the leaves of one tree, and the drops of one ocean. In each Ishraq of the tablet of Ishráqát, Baha'u'lláh reveals some of his weighty counsels to mankind, in general, and to his followers in particular. He enjoins upon all mankind to establish the lesser peace, urges his followers to observe God's holy commandments, reminds them that the cause of God will become victorious through praiseworthy deeds and upright character, and addresses some special counsels to the Universal House of Justice, the supreme body ordained by Baha'u'lláh, which came into being in 1963, and affirms that its members have been charged with the affairs of the people, refers to it all matters of state, and asserts that this instruction is to be considered as part of the Most Holy Book. He moreover affirms that justice is upheld by two pillars, reward and punishment, counsels everyone regarding the instruction and education of children, announces the purpose of religion to be the establishment of unity and concord amongst the peoples of the world, forbids his followers to make religion the cause of dissension and strife, advocates the adoption of a universal auxiliary language, and enjoins upon the trustees of the House of Justice either to choose one language from among those now existing or to adopt a new one. Dear friends, it is interesting to note that in the tablet of Bisharat, Baha'u'lláh enjoins upon the governments of the world to adopt the international language. These two statements, which seem to be contradictory, may be regarded as two different stages in bringing about a world auxiliary language. The first stage will be the adoption of a universal language by the governments, while the second will have to wait until such time that the Universal House of Justice has emerged as the supreme institution of the world order of Baha'u'lláh and its authority is recognized. It is only then that it can possibly reconsider the choice of the language so as to either retain the one chosen by the governments or alter it altogether. In one of his tablets revealed in Akka, Baha'u'lláh emphasizes the importance of adopting the auxiliary international language ordained in the Kitáb-i-Aqdas. He states that its implementation will provide a means for safeguarding the unity of the human race and will facilitate intercourse and understanding among the peoples of the world. In this tablet, Baha'u'lláh praises the Arabic language for its expressiveness and eloquence, and remarks that no other language can match its vast possibilities. He further states that God would be pleased if all the peoples of the world were to speak the Arabic language, but he does not require humanity necessarily to adopt it as the international language. Rather, he leaves the choice to the appropriate institutions. Very good, dear friends. Thank you.